The soft glow of my monitor was the only light in the room as I tried to squash a particularly nasty bug in the latest update for SyncFlow, my productivity app. It was 2 days before my 30th birthday, and the pressure was on, both professionally and, as always, personally. My phone buzzed on the desk. Mom. I let go to voicemail, already guessing the content. Probably another gentle reminder about the escalating HOA fees for their oversized house. Or perhaps Dad had another can't-miss investment idea that required a modest 5-figure injection from yours truly. I sighed, leaning back. It had been like this for 5 years, ever since SyncFlow actually took off. Suddenly, I wasn't just Alex, the nerdy son. I was Alex, the successful developer, Alex, the walking, talking ATM. I'd hoped the success would bring respect, maybe even some genuine warmth. Mostly, it brought an endless stream of requests disguised as casual conversation. My 28th birthday dinner was a prime example. I'd booked a table at that new Italian place downtown, picked up the tab for everyone, and listened all evening to complaints about the service and thinly veiled hints about the European river cruise they'd seen advertised. For my 30th, I decided on a low-key affair, pizza and board games in my apartment. Less fuss, less expense, and I hoped less opportunity for them to make it all about what they wanted. The morning of my actual birthday, I sent a cheerful message to the family group chat. Hey all, low-key pizza and board games at my place tonight around 7 for the big 3-0. No gifts necessary, just show up if you can. An hour ticked by. Silence. Then my phone lit up. It was Dad. Not a private message, of course. Right there, in the group chat, for everyone to see. Nobody cares about your big 3-0 pizza party, son. Frankly, it's a bit childish. We have actual adult plans with Liam and his friend Mark tonight. Something you'd understand if you had a real social life. Time to grow up. I stared at the screen, the words blurring slightly. A familiar cold wave washed over me. But this time it was different. It wasn't the usual sting of disappointment. It was something sharper, colder. Final. Mom's reaction popped up, a sad emoji responding to my invitation, immediately followed by a thumbs up for Dad's brutal takedown. Then Liam, my younger brother, chimed in, yeah, Alex, seriously. Mark's hooking us up with VIP passes for that new club opening. You wouldn't get it. Maybe try again when you're less boring. Even Aunt Carol, Mom's sister and a perennial enabler of their nonsense, added her 2 cents. Oh dear, Alex. Maybe a quiet night in for you then. Not a single happy birthday. I read Dad's time to grow up again. The irony was a punch to the gut. I've been adulting for them for years, footing bills, solving crises, propping up their comfortable lifestyle. I sat there for a full 10 minutes, the screen's light reflecting in my eyes. Then, calmly, methodically, I took a screenshot of the entire exchange. My reply to the group was short, devoid of any emotion I was feeling. Understood. Point taken. Enjoy your evening. Then I got to work. First, my banking app. The $3,500 automatic monthly mortgage payment for their house. The one they had to have for family prestige. The one I'd been covering for 3 years until they got back on their feet. I canceled it. Effective immediately. Next, I called my bank. The supplementary credit card linked to my primary account. The one Dad, Mom, and Liam used with such joyful abandon for essentials that somehow always included designer jeans for Liam and spa days for Mom. Compromised, I told the agent, please cancel it immediately, and no replacement card is to be issued to any authorized users on that account. I changed my online banking passwords, each click a small, satisfying severance. Finally, I texted Sarah, my childhood friend and now a razor-sharp lawyer. The balloon just went up. Need to talk ASAP. They finally handed me the scissors. The next morning, I didn't wait for their calls. I knew they were coming. I drove over to their house, the sky a pale, indifferent gray. The SUV, a fairly new model I'd bought for family use when Dad's ancient sedan finally gave up the ghost, was parked in their driveway. It was in my name, insured by me. I used my spare key, slipped into the driver's seat, and drove it away. I'd already pre-booked a spot in a secure, long-term parking garage under my company's name, SyncFlow Solutions, LLC. In its place in their driveway, I left the old clunker they'd had before, the one I'd kept garage at my own place. I put the keys in their mailbox with a curt note. Found this. Might be more your speed now. Later that morning, I was in Sarah's office, the scent of coffee and legal documents strangely comforting. Okay, Attila, she said, a grim smile playing on her lips as I finished recounting the birthday message and my subsequent actions. Let's catalog the Empire's assets and prepare for the barbarian incursions. I laid out the tangled mess of 5 years of financial entanglement, the loans that were never repaid, the bills I'd absorbed, the temporary support that had become a permanent expectation. Sarah listened patiently, taking notes. We're building a fortress of facts, Alex, she said finally. They count on your love and your exhaustion. We count on evidence and the law. She then shared a brief story about her own cousin, who'd been financially bled dry by a manipulative sibling with a bottomless pit of sob stories. The patterns are always there, Alex. They just were different clothes. The first call came, as expected, from Mom. Her voice was a high-pitched tremor of panic. Alex, the mortgage. The bank just called David. It didn't go through. And the credit card. Liam tried to buy breakfast, and it was declined. What is happening? And the SUV, it's different. I took a breath, channeling Sarah's calm demeanor. Mom, I made some necessary financial adjustments based on Dad's advice. The bank and the credit card company have been informed of my decisions. As for the SUV, I've reclaimed my property. The car in the driveway is the one you owned before I bought the other one. But why? She wailed. How could you be so unfeeling? So cruel? After all we've done for you. Your father is beside himself. Unfeeling. I repeated the word, tasting like ash. Interesting choice. I'm simply taking Dad's advice from yesterday. It's time I grew up and managed my affairs. We can discuss this further when you're all prepared to have a rational conversation about the last 5 years of financial support. I hung up before the full-blown hysterics could begin. Liam's response was less tearful, more electronically venomous. A barrage of texts filled my screen. You psycho. You left us stranded. Mark says you're probably having a meltdown and should be committed. UOWEUS. Dad practically gave you the idea for SyncFlow. You're nothing without us. The SyncFlow claim was a new, particularly galling fabrication. Dad's only contribution to my app idea was once vaguely wondering if someone should make a better shopping list thingy. I screenshotted every message, forwarded them to Sarah with a note, Exhibit B, and then blocked Liam's number. Peace for a moment. That evening, an unexpected call came through. Uncle Ben, Dad's older, estranged brother. Heard from your dad. Ben's gruff voice crackled over the line. Got an earful about his ungrateful, mentally unstable son who's abandoned the family in their hour of need. Sounded like the usual David drama, just turned up to 11. What's your side, kid? I was surprised he'd even called me. Cautiously, I gave him a concise, factual summary of the birthday incident and my subsequent actions. Uncle Ben let out a dry chuckle. Figures much. Your dad could sell ice to an Eskimo and then charge him for the delivery, then complain the Eskimo didn't say thank you properly. Listen, Alex, I washed my hands of David's financial messes 20 years ago. He never changes, just finds new people to fund his fantasies. If you need an ear or someone who knows how he operates, I'm here. Just don't lend him money, not even a dime. His unexpected validation was like a splash of cold water, bracing and welcome. A new door had opened. Empowered by Sarah's unwavering support and Uncle Ben's surprising validation, I dove headfirst into the financial archaeology of my family ties. With Sarah guiding me on what to look for, I pulled my full credit report. And there it was, uglier than I'd imagined. The $20,000 small business loan for Liam, the one Dad had rushed me into co-signing, assuring me it was just a formality, son, to get him started. What I hadn't realized, thanks to some cleverly arranged paperwork I'd been too pressured and trusting to scrutinize, was a personal guarantee clause. It didn't just make me liable for the initial sum. It made me liable for any further debts Liam's business, a phantom entity that never existed beyond a flashy, template-built website, incurred with that particular lender. Naturally, it was in default. The collection calls I now realized were the ones my parents had been intercepting, telling me they were just telemarketers. Then came Uncle Ben's follow-up call. Your dad ever try to get you involved in that Phoenix investment group he was obsessed with a while back? He asked casually. Heard he took a big hit with those charlatans. That comment was the key. It prompted Sarah and me to dig into the public records for my parents' property. And there it was, clear as day. A second mortgage, a hefty $75,000 albatross taken out about 8 months prior from a high-interest lender I'd never heard of. They were clearly drowning, and this was why the demands on me had escalated from merely constant to outright rapacious. Aunt Carol called next, her voice a confection of false sympathy. Alex, dear, she cooed. I heard you're going through a difficult time. Your parents are worried sick. David said you've been so erratic, making these terrible accusations. Perhaps you need some help. Dear, a good rest. The old Alex would have mumbled an apology, felt a pang of guilt. The new Alex, however, was finding his footing. Thank you for your concern, Aunt Carol, I said, my voice even. I'm actually feeling quite clear-headed for the first time in years. The only help I need is for people to understand the actual truth, not Dad's curated version. Did he happen to mention the defaulted loan he conned me into co-signing, or the secret second mortgage they took out on their house while expecting me to cover the first? Aunt Carol sputtered something about family loyalty and abruptly ended the call. So much for concern. The next move came from Liam, or rather, from Liam being puppeteered by his friend Mark. Mark, I was beginning to realize, wasn't just a harmless freeloader. He was a petty instigator, enjoying the drama and the perks of Liam's connection to my wallet. Cut off from their usual funding source, they escalated. They showed up at my apartment building, a secure complex with controlled access. Mark, clearly trying to project some kind of street-tough image, started hammering the intercom button for my unit. Yo, Alex, your family needs to talk, man. Stop hiding like a coward. We know you're in there. Liam's really hurting, you know. His voice was loud, laced with aggression. I watched them on my security camera feed, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. I didn't answer. Instead, I called building security. While waiting, I hit record on the camera feed. Mark, getting impatient, actually tried to jimmy the main door lock with something from his pocket. Unsuccessful, thankfully. Then he started shouting vague threats about making me listen. Security arrived quickly, escorting a belligerent Mark and a sullen, defeated-looking Liam off the premises. They issued a formal trespass warning to Mark. I saved the footage, labeled Exhibit C. Later that day, Sarah was blunt. This isn't just about money anymore, Alex. That was attempted forced entry, and those were threats. We need to file for a temporary restraining order against Mark. It sends a message that you're not playing their games. It felt extreme, but she was right. I was done being a target. A week passed, a week of tense silence from my family, broken only by the official serving of the TRO against Mark. That, apparently, was a step too far for them. Susan, my mother, called. Her voice, this time, wasn't angry or hysterical, but tearful, pleading. Alex, please. This has gone too far. A restraining order? Against Liam's friend? We need to talk. All of us. As a family. Your father, he's willing to listen. He's very upset, but he's willing. Please, Alex, for me. One dinner. Let's try to heal this. My internal alarm bells were screaming. Heal this, in their language, usually meant Alex needs to forget everything and start paying again. I called Sarah. It's an ambush, Alex, almost certainly, she said. But it might also be your best chance to lay everything out on your terms with a witness. Want to come? I can be your legal counsel and emotional support animal. I laughed, the first genuine laugh in days. I'd appreciate that, Sarah, very much. We arrived at my parents' house together. The air inside was thick with a forced, funereal solemnity. David, Susan, and Liam were all there, arranged in the living room like a panel of disappointed judges. No Mark. Thankfully, the TRO was clearly being respected, if not appreciated. David began, his voice resonating with a carefully practiced, sorrowful tone. Alex, son, we're your family. We love you. This path you're on, it's destructive. These accusations, cutting us off, involving lawyers, it's not you. You've been influenced. You're stressed. Susan, on cue, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. We just want our son back, Alex. Can't we just forgive and forget all this unpleasantness? Liam, slumped in an armchair, just muttered, "Yeah, this is all your fault, making things weird." I exchanged a quick glance with Sarah. "Showtime. I appreciate you all agreeing to meet," I began, my voice surprisingly steady. "And you're right. We do need clarity." I placed my tablet and a slim, professional-looking binder on the coffee table. Sarah sat beside me, a silent, observant pillar of support. I connected my tablet to their large smart TV. The screen flickered to life. "Let's start," I said, "with what precipitated this destructive path I'm supposedly on." The screenshot of the brutal birthday group chat messages filled the screen. Dad's "nobody cares," Liam's "less boring," Mom's emojis. Dad, Mom, Liam, your words, not mine. A stunned silence filled the room. I moved on. "Now, let's talk about the support I've provided over the years." An infographic, clear and concise, appeared on the screen. It was a summary Sarah and I had painstakingly compiled. $327,850. Total monetary contributions over 5 years, itemized. The mortgage payments they conveniently forgot were from me, the endless loans to Liam that vanished in a thin air, the utility bills, the car, the vacations they'd guilt me into funding. That, I said, is the financial reality. Next, I played the voicemails. Susan's saccharine, manipulative plea. "Alex, darling, Liam is so fragile right now. If you don't help him with this, he might do something drastic. You wouldn't want that on your conscience, would you? It's only $10,000. You make that in a day with your little app." Her face went white as her own voice filled the room. Then one from Dad, full of bluster, pressuring me for a quick investment in some ridiculous scheme that, of course, evaporated along with the cash. "And these," I continued, bringing up the documents on the screen, "are the things you forgot to tell me about while I was paying for everything else." The co-signed loan agreement for Liam, the personal guarantee clause highlighted in bright red, the public record proof of their undeclared $75,000 second mortgage. Then, for the piece de resistance, I played a short audio recording. I'd made it months ago, a particularly egregious demand from Liam fresh in my ears. I'd overheard him in the next room, bragging to Mark on speakerphone. My phone was in my pocket, and I discreetly hit record. Liam's voice, cocky and clear. "Seriously, dude, Alex is such a pushover. He just wants to give us money. Why would I get a job? As long as he keeps the money flowing, I'm set, man. He owes us anyway." Liam's face turned a pasty, greenish-white. He looked like he was going to be sick. David, red-faced and desperate, tried his last gambit. "This is all a misunderstanding. And SyncFlow, that app was my idea. I conceptualized it. You just executed the technical parts. We should be partners. You owe me for that. I've been waiting for that one." With a click, the screen changed to show dated screenshots of my initial code repositories for SyncFlow, my original design documents, email exchanges with my first beta testers, all time-stamped, all predating any supposed conversation with David about apps by at least 2 years. "My work, Dad," I said quietly. "My creation, my intellectual property. Every line of code, every late night." The fight went out of him then. He just sagged back into the couch. So I said, standing up. Sarah rose with me. "Here's the healing. There will be no more money. No more access to my accounts or any of my assets. Sarah will be in contact with you, Dad, and you, Liam, regarding the full assumption of liability for that co-sign loan you fraudulently got me into. The house, the second mortgage, those are your responsibilities now." I looked at each of them, and until I see genuine, demonstrated accountability, not excuses, not blame, not crocodile tears, I am severing personal ties as well. Sarah calmly placed a formally worded letter on the coffee table in front of David. It outlined my position and the legal expectation regarding the loan. Susan finally erupted, not with tears this time, but with a shriek of incoherent rage. Liam was on his feet, shouting, "You can't do this. This is our family." David just sat there, purple-faced, sputtering about disrespect and filial duty. "You wanted me to grow up, Dad," I said, My voice even as Sarah and I walked toward the door. Congratulations. I have. This is what it looks like. We walked out, leaving the explosion behind us. The next day, I didn't engage in a social media war. That was their style, not mine. Again, with Sarah's calm guidance, I drafted a factual, unemotional letter. It briefly outlined the years of financial exploitation, the catalyst of the birthday incident, the deceptive loans, and my decision to step away from my own well-being. I attached a highly summarized, redacted document of the key evidence, the group chat text, a top-line financial overview. No rants, just cold, hard facts. I emailed it to a very select group, Uncle Ben, Aunt Carol, so she couldn't later claim she had no idea, and a handful of other key relatives my parents might try to enlist in their smear campaign. David, predictably, attempted his own narrative control. He posted a long, rambling, tear-soaked diatribe on Facebook about his unbelievable heartbreak over his son's inexplicable betrayal and how I'd clearly been poisoned by outside influences. It garnered some initial syrupy sympathy from his circle of equally clueless friends. That was until Uncle Ben weighed in. After receiving my letter, he made a single, calm comment on David's Facebook post. David, there are always two sides to every story. And sometimes the receipts tell the truer one. Maybe it's time for some quiet reflection instead of public appeals for pity. Coming from David's own brother, that quiet comment landed like a tactical nuke, and a few of David's friends started asking awkward questions in the thread. Aunt Carol tried calling me, no doubt to scold me for airing the family's dirty laundry in public. I let it go to voicemail, then texted her, Aunt Carol, I've shared facts with concerned parties, not gossip. My well-being is no longer a topic for family debate. Please respect my decision. Then I blocked her number 2. Small acts of boundary setting, but they felt monumental. A few days later, the next predictable chess move. I got a frantic call from a number I didn't recognize. A woman, identifying herself as a concerned neighbor of my parents, her voice tight with feigned panic. Is this Alex? Oh, thank goodness. It's your mother, Susan. She's collapsed. She was asking for you. They're rushing her to Mercy General. My stomach clenched, but years of their drama had also honed my skepticism. Thank you for letting me know, I said evenly, and hung up. My first call was to Mercy General. No patient named Susan, last name, admitted, in transit, or in the ER. My second call was to Sarah. She made a quick, discreet inquiry through a professional contact who worked with local paramedics. No such incident. It was a lie, a desperate, cruel ploy to reel me back in. I texted my mom's phone directly. Heard you were unwell. Glad to know via checks with Mercy General and local paramedics that it was a false alarm. Please don't try that tactic again. Future essential communications only through Sarah, if absolutely necessary. Click. Another door closed. Liam, meanwhile, pushed by a furious Mark, whose TRO was now a matter of public record, a source of considerable embarrassment for him, tried a different angle. They attempted to sell a wildly sensationalized version of the story to a local online tabloid. They painted me as a cruel, mentally unstable tech millionaire who had callously abandoned his ailing, impoverished parents. The tabloid, however, did some basic due diligence. They found David's disastrous Facebook post, Uncle Ben's pointed comment, and through a mutual acquaintance who'd received my letter, got wind of my well-documented side of things. The story suddenly looked too messy, too one-sided in my favor. They passed. Mark was reportedly livid his payday had vanished. I heard later from Uncle Ben that Mark and Liam had a massive falling out, blaming each other, which pretty much ended their toxic friendship. One less bad influence in Liam's ear, at least. A year, 12 months. It felt like a lifetime. SyncFlow had released its biggest, most successful update yet, and I was genuinely proud of my work, of my team. I was calmer, more focused, healthier in mind and body. I'd moved to a new city, a vibrant place full of energy and anonymity. My new condo, purchased through my LLC, was my sanctuary, its address a closely guarded secret. I'd made new friends, discovered new hobbies, and was even in a tentative, healthy relationship with a wonderful woman named Chloe, who knew the broad strokes of my family past and respected the boundaries I'd fought so hard to establish. Therapy had been a godsend, helping me unpack years of ingrained guilt and quiet anger, teaching me to value my own worth. News of my old life trickled in occasionally, usually via Uncle Ben, with whom I now had a comfortable, if infrequent, bond. My parents had lost their oversized house, forced to downsize to a small, cramped rental in a less desirable part of town. David, Ben said, was a bitter, resentful man, constantly complaining about his misfortunes. Susan was reportedly depressed, rarely leaving the rental. Liam was still living with them, bouncing between a string of low-wage gig jobs, his grand ambitions apparently on hold. And Mark? He'd vanished from their orbit entirely. The cosign loan was another story. After considerable, persistent legal pressure from Sarah and a very real threat of me suing them for fraud and misrepresentation, David and Susan had reluctantly begun making minimal, grudging payments. It was an implicit acknowledgement of their liability, even if they'd never voice it. It would take them years, maybe decades, to clear it, but it was their albatross now, not mine. I was back in my old city for a major tech conference. It felt strange, like visiting a ghost of former life. I was grabbing a coffee in a small cafe near the convention center when I saw him. Liam. He looked different, thinner, lines of weariness etched around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He looked humbled. Our eyes met across the crowded room. He hesitated, then, to my surprise, approached my table. "Alex," he said, his voice quiet, almost sheepish. "Hi. Didn't expect to see you here." "Liam," I replied, keeping my tone neutral, calm. He shifted his weight, avoiding my gaze for a moment. "Look, things have been pretty tough. Since, all that. Mom's not doing great. Dad's just angry all the time." He paused, then finally met my eyes. "I get it now. Some of it, anyway. What mess I made. We all made." It was the closest thing to an apology, to any kind of self-awareness I'd ever heard from him. I nodded slowly. "It was a mess, Liam," I agreed. "It didn't have to be this way." I didn't offer solutions, didn't offer sympathy, didn't offer a way back in. Just an acknowledgement of his statement. "I hope you find a way to make things better for yourself." I gave a slight nod, picked up my coffee, and walked out of the cafe, leaving him standing there. No grand confrontation, no tearful reconciliation. Just a quiet, final boundary, drawn not in anger, but in peace. A few weeks later, back in my new city, a small, anonymously sent package arrived at my company's P.O. box. It was the only address my family might conceivably find if they tried hard enough. Inside, there was no note, no card. Just an old, slightly faded photograph. It was me, maybe 4 or 5 years old, beaming, playing with a simple wooden train set on the living room floor of our old house. A train set Uncle Ben had made for me. It was a genuine, happy memory, one from a time before my father's financial recklessness and my mother's anxieties had cast a long, dark shadow over everything. I stared at the photo for a long time, a strange ache in my chest. Who had sent it? Mom? Dad? In a moment of uncharacteristic sentimentality? Uncle Ben? It didn't seem like his style. He was more of a blunt phone call kind of guy. Or maybe, just maybe, Liam in a clumsy, unspoken attempt at something. The next day, Sarah called. "Odd thing. Alex," she said, her voice thoughtful. "Your mom's lawyer contacted me. Very low-key, very preliminary. No demands, nothing aggressive. Just an inquiry about whether you might, at some point in the future, be open to a mediated conversation. Just you and Susan." She specifically stressed no David, no Liam involved, and no financial component, purely personal. I looked at the old photograph on my desk, the image of a smiling, innocent kid. Years of ingrained caution, of expecting the next manipulation, the next demand, warred with a tiny, hesitant flicker of something else. Was this just another, more sophisticated tactic? Or was it possible, just possible, that this was a genuine flicker of remorse for my mother, a tentative step, taken perhaps when she was finally, momentarily, out from under David's suffocating influence? The Alex of a year ago would have dismissed it instantly, angrily. But the Alex of today, he was different. The power, I realized, was entirely mine now. The growing up my father had so contemptuously demanded of me had led me here, to this quiet strength, this place of considered choice. I didn't make a decision right then. I looked out my window at the sprawling, vibrant city I now called home, a life I had built for myself on my own terms. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over Sarah's contact. So, I murmured to the empty room, a ghost of a smile playing on my lips. About that mediated conversation. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it felt truly, completely mine to write.